All right, greetings everyone. It's 8 o'clock here on Wednesday night, getting ready for a little Eat Clean, Get Lean, week number 4 coming at you here. And this week we have some very interesting topics we're going to be talking about. I do have the chat box open, so if anybody wants to go ahead and ask any questions at this point in time, I can answer those questions for you, no problem at all. And I'm just going to make sure my slide deck is all set up before we get started. This week we're going to be talking a lot about the hormonal effect of sleep and how important sleep is to you hitting your goals. Everyone who's on the call has very specific goals. Some of them it is to increase your level of fitness, to get leaner, to get more energy, and for some of you, maybe it's even to sleep better. So this is a great opportunity for us to discuss this in some detail and go into where some of the pitfalls are and what you can do about them. So it's just around 8 o'clock. I'm going to wait about another minute before I actually start the presentation. Some of you looking at the screen right now, it looks kind of funky. You see like a repeated slide over and over and over again. That's just the way that the screen sharing works until I actually start the PowerPoint presentation. Excuse me. Anybody needs a drink, get one. I have my my seltzer here, as I always do, or water. They both work real well. And it's a beautiful night here. I can hear the fire alarm going off in Brielle, so something's going on out there. For those of you who are not on the East Coast, we had a beautiful day today. It's probably in the high 60s. And it was a great day to go out for a walk and a great day for a workout. Now, those of you who are following us on Facebook in the Eat Clean, Get Lean group or Keen Fitness, or if you train with me, you know that I injured my back earlier this week. So let me share that with you before we get started. I was out playing golf on Saturday, and I was carrying my bag. And it was a light bag. It was only playing Bel Air, which is a short 18-hole golf course, and I aggravated a disc in my back. And I'm going for a massage on Sunday morning, and that helped a little bit. And then I went out and played golf on Sunday, but I took a cart. I didn't walk the whole thing. Thought that would protect my back. And Monday I was in a lot of pain. So I ended up going to the chiropractor, and he treated me very conservatively. In other words, I didn't go in and I didn't get manipulated. I received some moist heat, electrical stimulation, and then he put some ice on my back with something called a cold laser, which helps. All this helps to reduce spasm, reduce inflammation. And then the massage therapist worked with me, and that helped a lot. And then by the time I got to the chiropractor, he said, there's not much more I can do. You're looking good. You got your extension back. Why don't you come back Friday? And so I'm going to go see him on Friday and see if I feel any better. But right now I feel pretty good. But the point I'm trying to make is this is a great opportunity to eat less and exercise less. I can't lift heavy weights this week. I'm trying to nurse a mild disc bulge back into place. So I've been doing a lot of walking. I've been trying to avoid prolonged sitting, and eating less and exercising less is working for me. It's helping to balance out my hormones, and I'm trying not to take any pain medication, which is definitely helping my digestion and so forth. So, when you have your little ups and downs, it certainly helps to have a strategy in place. And the Eat Clean, Get Lean is exactly what's helping me with my strategy. All right, I'm having a little trouble here with the computer here, guys, so just hang tight for a moment. There we go. Let's try that again. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open my slide deck now. Everyone seems to be here. So let me just go back to this. Here we go. And we'll start from the beginning. Here we go. Sleep and hormones. Tonight we're going to talk about insomnia, hormonal imbalance, or sleeplessness, and its cause and the effect of having yourself out of balance. Now, basically, hormonal imbalance results from maybe being perimenopausal, being in menopause, adrenal fatigue, or any of its other symptoms, and they may cause sleeplessness, which turns worse with hormonal imbalance. So it's bad enough that if you're going through another condition that's affecting your sleep, these conditions themselves can also make your sleep worse. Now, sleeplessness can also occur for many other non-hormonal related causes, and these could be chronic stress, night sweats. You see those a lot with being perimenopausal and menopausal, adrenal fatigue, which we'll get into. We're going to do a whole talk on the adrenal thyroid cortex. Not tonight. I'm just touching base on it, but we're going to spend more time in another call dealing more with thyroid and adrenal problems, anxiety, and dietary habits. So let's kind of get into each individually into a little more detail. Okay, so let's talk about insomnia. Now, insomnia in women is a little different than men. So let's talk a little bit about the women first, and then we'll kind of phase into the men in a couple minutes. So insomnia in women causes hormonal imbalance and worsens the symptoms of menopause because the body needs to sleep for the body's hormones to do their job properly. Sleep is absolutely essential for repair and rejuvenation. Poor sleep habits can predispose people to early death by way of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. So specifically with women, what is it that causes this hormonal imbalance to begin with, and why would sleep deprivation make it worse? Well, hormones have no chance to do their healing without sleep, so let's start with that. When you lose sleep, you really can't catch up. The hormones just don't spring back like that. Sleeping less than you need affects at least 10 different hormones, causing them to shift and disrupt appetite, fertility, mental health, as well as cardiac health. So sleep is essential to maintain proper hormonal balance and health. Insomnia hormones include estrogen and testosterone. So let's talk about those two in a little more detail. Estrogen is a sleep-maintaining hormone. It is common to have an estrogen deficiency in perimenopausal and menopause when your body's not producing enough natural estrogen. Your ability to get a full night's sleep suffers as a result. Okay? And that's what happens when you're going through menopause. Your progesterone estrogen levels start to shift. So there's ways to work on that. We're going to discuss those with regards to diet and, of course, sleep and exercise. Now, lack of testosterone is also an issue for women. Diminished testosterone is linked with snoring and sleep apnea, which is a repetitive interruption of breath during sleep. We're going to spend a little more time talking about sleep apnea in a few minutes as well. So, what can we do? What is it that we can do that can help us with our sleep and balancing out our hormones? Well, the first step would be developing healthy sleeping habits that will also help prevent insomnia. Developing a bedtime routine and going to sleep around the same time each night helps with your body, and it helps you to form good sleep tendencies. So we talk about trying to get in bed by 10 o'clock at night and then trying to count off 7 hours from there. 7 to 8 hours would be optimal. And trying to do that every night, developing a set habit. So with a lot of us, we'll go up, like for example with me, I'll go upstairs at 10 o'clock and I'll bring a book and I'll start to read, and then I get a little tired. So I'm usually falling asleep between 10 and 10:30. Now, in all honesty, some nights I actually fall asleep on the couch before then. But the truth of the matter is trying to set a set bedtime, because as all of you know, I'm usually up by 5, quarter after 5 in the morning, and I'm at my office by 5:45. My first client's usually walking in about 10 to 6, 5 to 6 in the morning. So I want to make sure that I'm ready for them, and the only way I can be ready for them and give them all what they come to receive is I have to be physically prepared, and physically preparing for that is making sure I get to sleep at nighttime. So what else can we do with regards to getting to sleep and having a set routine? It's also a good idea to remove distractions or anything likely to disturb sleep from your bedroom. And this could be the television. So we see the guy on the left there, he's sitting on the end of his bed watching TV. And on the right, you see the cat's on the bed. Now, we have a small cat now. He's not so small anymore. He's probably about 6, 7 months old now. And he loves to jump on the bed and start to play. You move your foot, he attacks your foot, and so forth. So if that becomes a problem, maybe he needs to go out into his little cat bed downstairs or out of the room. Actually, he's been pretty good. He's been kind of hopping off the bed when we go to sleep, and he somehow crawls under the bed and sleeps there. But so we really don't have any distractions. The only thing Susan keeps in the room is she keeps a fan on all night, and it's almost like a white noise. It kind of lulls you to sleep a little bit. So that actually works as a benefit to us. But we don't have any lights in our room. We have very dark curtains in our room, and we don't have a TV in the room. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about sleep and hormones. Though it seems strange, it is important to get up and walk around when you find you're tossing and turning and having a hard time getting to sleep. This is because it is important not to allow your body or your mind to associate your bed with sleeplessness. So a lot of times what I'll do if I'm having trouble falling asleep, well, I'm a little more advanced in this whole process, so I'm looking for why aren't I falling asleep? So what could be some potential things that keep me up or wake me up and I can't continue to sleep? Well, if I'm dealing with a stressful situation and my mind is thinking and pondering how am I going to solve this situation, well, that could be restlessness because of stress. So obviously I need to handle that. So let's handle these one at a time. When I feel stressed and I can't focus and I can't sleep, what I'll do is I'll go downstairs and I'll take some 5-HTP, which helps me to relax my brain and de-stress, and I'll also use some melatonin. Melatonin also will help me to sleep. In a few minutes, I'm going to talk about melatonin, and I'm going to talk about cortisol and how they have to be balanced out. But for now, let's just say that I take some melatonin and I take some 5-HTP, and I may also take some GABA. GABA is another thing that helps to relax me, and I'll try that. Now, what else could be keeping me up at night that stops me from falling asleep? Well, if I've eaten too early in the day and my blood sugar is starting to bottom out, then that could be a problem too, because if I don't have enough sugars to sustain me for the course of the evening to help me to sleep, my brain's going to wake me up to eat. The feed drive, the hunger drive kicks in. Brain is looking for something to eat. So the other day I got up and I realized I had done that, and I had some turkey breast and I took some mustard, and I didn't have a good, what I would call a good source of carbohydrate to eat. So I actually ate a piece of cheese. Now, I'm trying to stay dairy free, just like all of you, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wasn't prepared. I didn't want to eat bread, and I didn't want to open up the mashed potatoes and start warming those up. So it was enough sugar in what I ate to get me through, and I was able to fall back to sleep. What are some other scenarios that might cause me to wake up? Well, the other night I fell asleep at 8:30 at night on the couch and woke up at 3:30. Well, that was 7 hours sleep, so I kind of was done sleeping. So what I found that's worked for me, now I'm just giving you some for instances here. I'll get up, I'll go on the couch, I'll put the TV on, but I'll close my eyes, and it's the noise from the TV that I associate with helping me to relax. It kind of distracts my mind a little bit, so that will help me go back to sleep. Now, when Susan gets up in the middle of the night and she can't fall back to sleep, she'll go in and start cleaning the kitchen. Maybe she might do a load of laundry. Something that gets her mind off whatever it is that might be stressing her. So you have to find a strategy that's going to work best for you. And we can talk about that if you want to talk about it. But these are just some different strategies we use when we can't fall back to sleep. Okay. Relief from insomnia and balanced hormones provides several benefits. Sound sleep grants a reduced risk in hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, and depression. Okay, so why so much? Let's talk about the obesity and the depression first. We'll work back to the high blood pressure and the diabetes. Well, obesity is from eating inappropriately in the middle of the night. Sometimes people get up and they'll have cheese and crackers, or like candy or cake or cookies or ice cream. Okay, and that's going to throw you off. And I'm going to talk about why that throws you off in a few minutes. We're going to talk about cortisol, and we're going to talk a little bit about insulin. And depression is your brain needs sleep at night. And if you're not getting enough sleep, your brain's not going to function optimally, like mine isn't right now. And you're going to start to fall into depression. Now, with regards to high blood pressure and diabetes, this all goes back to the foods you choose to eat and your inability to exercise with stress. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you're not sleeping. So this is just a couple that we've kind of highlighted. Okay, let's talk about testosterone real quick. When testosterone is balanced, slow wave or deep sleep is easier to achieve. If you sleep enough each night, you can lose weight as a result of a decrease in your cortisol level. Now, we've mentioned cortisol before in the past, and we're going to talk about it a little more in detail. But keep in mind that you do need some cortisol to sleep, because cortisol's primary job in the body is to break protein down in the liver to convert it to glucose to feed your brain and nervous system. And since you're not eating when you're sleeping, your body does need to do that in order to sustain the brain, so it doesn't go into, like, quote-unquote starvation mode and wake you up. But again, if your blood sugar goes too low, cortisol can't manufacture enough sugar fast enough, and you will wake up. Okay. Furthermore, greater sleep length is associated with a reduced incidence of breast cancer, and people who nap for 30 minutes at least 3 times a week had a 37% lower chance of heart attack. Okay. So let's talk about that real quick. I've had the chance to travel through Europe, and I would say in a lot of the countries I traveled to, stores closed in the afternoon, business shut down, people took their siesta, they took their afternoon rest. It's only us crazy people in the United States who work 10, 12 hours a day without a break. So there's something to be said about taking some relaxation time during the day. I know Susan will come home, she'll say, I'm going home to meditate. That's our code for I'm going home to close my eyes for 30 minutes on the couch. It allows her to rejuvenate herself, so that when she comes back to work, she's refreshed. Now, we also do other things like go back and walk the dog and get some sunshine, get some fresh air, but there's something special about taking some time during the day. Now, a lot of you work in an office, or you might be traveling on the road. That might be very difficult for you. I understand that. But for those of us who can take 30 minutes, at lunch or after lunch, just to relax, close your eyes, meditate a little bit, I think you're going to find that you're going to feel better and you're going to have a more productive afternoon. All right, let's talk about cortisol and melatonin real quick. Sleep needs some cortisol, but think of melatonin and cortisol as being two sides of the same coin. If cortisol is too high, melatonin cannot be released to induce sleep. So that's why stress management, insomnia, and sleep are very, very important. We want to make sure that we're lowering or keeping cortisol levels low through our stress management. How are we going to manage our stress? We're going to exercise, and we're going to eat well. So it'll help to lower our stress levels. And then, using relaxation techniques to try to get rid of some of the mental stress that we deal with during the course of our day. We're also not going to stay up and watch television and take the whole world's problems with us to bed. I think it's very, very important that we read before you go to bed and not stay up and watch the news. A lot of people saying, the economy, or, the rocket blew up last night. You don't need those kind of things. There's nothing you can do to change them right now. You need to work on you, and making you a better you will make the world a better place, right? So we need to realize that If your cortisol levels are too high, you can't release melatonin, and it'll make it very, very difficult to go to sleep. So if that be the case, those are nights probably when I do need to take some melatonin. I get a supplement with melatonin in order to help me go to sleep. Okay, let's talk about two other hormones. Let's talk about leptin and ghrelin. Okay, so sleep affects your leptin and your ghrelin levels. Now, what is leptin? Leptin is a hormone that's produced by your fat cells, and it's sent to the brain, and it tells your brain whether you can burn fat or you need to store fat. Okay, and leptin is the hormone that gives the brain that information. But when you have lack of sleep, you produce less leptin, which tells your brain you're not full and it's not safe to burn fat presently. And it actually encourages you to go into fat storage. Now, lack of sleep also increases something called ghrelin. Ghrelin comes from the gut, from the stomach. And that tells the brain that you need to eat. It's a sensation of hunger, so you get a higher hunger sensation. Now, if cortisol is high, as we just discussed, and you're hungry, you might just grab a high sugar snack, which now increases your insulin, which again accelerates fat gain, because when you put insulin and cortisol together, you stimulate fat storage. So, as the body is in fat storage mode due to low leptin levels. So it really gets to be a vicious cycle. You can see how important sleep is in order to lose weight. So if you're someone who's exercising too aggressively, like we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, you're not eating properly, you're not sleeping, you can see how all of your hormones are going to be all thrown off. Your ghrelin, your leptin, your insulin, your melatonin, your cortisol, not to mention your testosterone and your estrogen. Okay? So there's a lot going on here, but there's strategies to help you to manage that. And that's where Susan and I come in with the coaching. So if you're having problems with sleep, you can talk to us about it. That's why we're here. We're here to help. So our suggestion, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're looking for something to eat, we say a low glycemic fruit, like strawberries or blueberries, with a protein like a scrambled egg or some rolled up turkey or a hard-boiled egg. These are all things that you can do in the middle of the night. So it all starts with having your shopping list fulfilled and making sure these foods are in your house to begin with. Okay, let's talk a little bit about sleep apnea. Sleep apnea in a lot of people in this country goes undiagnosed. And even after it's diagnosed, I know there's a lot of people who don't follow up on it. There's a lot of different treatments. Let's talk a little bit about what sleep apnea is first, and then we'll talk about some of the things that I've seen as far as treatment is concerned. Okay, the cause of insomnia in men often varies significantly from the causes of insomnia in women. Low testosterone is associated with andropause, or the male menopause, and can contribute to sleep apnea in men, leading to insomnia or sleeplessness. So sleep apnea is the interruption of or difficulty of breathing during sleep. It affects approximately 9% of adult males and is more common in obese males. The inhibited breathing and loud snoring common to sleep apnea tends to disrupt sleep many times throughout the course of the night. Okay, so before we get on to the next slide, let's talk a little bit about that in more detail. I want you to imagine a paper straw that you're trying to drink a milkshake through. And in the old days when we used to use paper straws, now everything's plastic, but the old paper straws, when they got wet, they would collapse. And if you were trying to drink something through it, like a milkshake, inevitably the straw would start to collapse and nothing got through. Well, that's exactly what sleep apnea is. What happens is the soft tissue of your palate and your muscles in your throat relax to such a level that when the lungs are trying to draw the air in, it's creating that pressure or that vacuum, and your breathing passages collapse. So therefore, no air gets through, just like you can't drink through that wet straw. Okay, so I'll talk to you about the treatment, a lot of the different treatments that are used for sleep apnea in a few minutes. Well, let's get back to the testosterone since we're on that slide. When the testosterone levels are in the optimal range, slow wave or deep sleep is easy to achieve. Thus, there is improvement in sleep in various ways when testosterone levels are optimal in men. So, how do we increase testosterone levels? Well, we know that if we lower our percent body fat, we'll decrease the amount of estrogen we're producing. We'll start to increase the amount of testosterone. If we do proper nutrition, making sure that we're getting enough protein in our meals, and making sure that we're eating healthy fats. Now, testosterone initially comes from cholesterol. Cholesterol is converted to something called DHEA, and DHEA is the precursor to testosterone in men. So, is it possible that if someone is on statin drugs that help to lower cholesterol, that in turn that will also increase their inability to produce testosterone? You can certainly draw that parallel there. So it's something to consider. So let's talk about insomnia in men resulting from low testosterone, and sleep apnea can lead to several other problems, including fatigue, reduced insulin sensitivity, low human growth hormone levels, and high cortisol levels. So again, testosterone, growth hormone, and other tissue repair hormones are essential for you to have a healthy, strong body. And if you don't have them, and you have fatigue on top of it, and reduced insulin sensitivity. Now, when they say reduced insulin sensitivity, that is with the muscle cells, okay? In other words, insulin doesn't react with the muscle cells. If it doesn't react with the muscle cells, your muscle cells cannot take up sugar to be burned for energy. And your cells tend to get very sluggish, okay? Now, one of the things that we have to realize is that a lot of us get up in the morning, we drive to work. And if you're not getting enough sleep, and you have sleep apnea and some of these insomnia issues, you could be at a risk for having a car accident in the morning. And I know that seems very far-fetched, but the statistics show that more people are killed by people falling asleep at the wheel than drunk driving. So that's something pretty significant. With regards to us, you could be as sober as a priest, right? But if you're falling asleep at the wheel because you didn't sleep well the night before, you're more dangerous than a drunk driver. Excuse me. So let's talk a little bit about cortisol. Now, cortisol, the stress hormone, will increase with prolonged insomnia because of the stress on the body. Constant high levels of cortisol can create a hormonal pattern that can further reduce testosterone production. It's pretty significant. So again, cortisol is real high, melatonin is not being released. Cortisol is real high, we're reducing our testosterone production. If we start to decrease our testosterone production, it can lead to adrenal fatigue, which often worsens the fatigue and the insomnia. So it becomes a very vicious cycle. So my job and Susan's job is to help you navigate this so that we can get you out of this cycle. And that's not something I could do on a call tonight. This is why we're asking you to allow us to coach you. If you have questions, you have concerns, you have to reach out to us. You can get us through Facebook. The group is at a point now where the people who are contacting me by email, please continue to do so. And if we need to have a phone conversation to get you out of this dangerous loop, I'm more than willing to do that. So let's make sure we stay on top of this, guys. Okay, let's talk a little bit about human growth hormone and where that's secreted with sleep. Human growth hormone is naturally made during the first 90 minutes of sleep. Therefore, if your sleep is disturbed, your growth hormone production is reduced. This, again, can lead to lower levels of testosterone and reduce lean muscle mass. So if we reduce testosterone, we can reduce the amount of muscle tone in the throat, that with the soft tissue, and as your testosterone goes lower, your estrogen levels are probably going to go higher, and you're going to have increased stored body fat. Next thing you know, your sleep apnea is going to get worse. Let's talk a little bit about blood sugar regulation. Sleep is also very important for proper insulin sensitivity and glucose control. If sleep is disrupted, the body stops utilizing insulin as effectively, and the body begins to need more and more insulin to control blood sugar. This leads to weight gain in a pre-diabetic state that, if not well managed, will lead to type 2 diabetes. So let's wrap up a little bit with sleep apnea. It's also called obstructive sleep apnea. And it's caused by obstructed breathing, either due to too much tissue, as seen in obesity, or decreased muscle tone, which may be seen with low testosterone. This inhibits the airflow in the mouth and nose, which causes snoring and decreases the ability for adequate oxygenation during sleep. As a result, men often wake up numerous times during the night and rarely achieve deep sleep. So, before we get into heck and check and all that kind of stuff, let's talk a little bit about what is currently being done for sleep apnea. Okay, there's something called a CPAP machine. It's called constant air pressure. And what that is this. Let's go back to the paper straw scenario. You're trying to drink a malted through this wet paper straw and it collapses and nothing gets through. But you know what? If you turn around and you blow down on the straw, it'll push the sides of the paper straw open because you're putting positive pressure going down the straw instead of negative pressure trying to draw the milkshake up to you. You're pushing down through the straw and the straw opens up wide. That's what a CPAP machine does. What it does is you wear it over your nose. It's kind of like a face mask, so to say, except it should only cover the nose. And what it does is you breathe through your nose while you're sleeping. It puts constant positive air pressure through the sinuses and through the breathing passages and keeps them open while you sleep. And it works very, very effectively. How do I know it works effectively? I've been using one since 1994. Now, I snored through college when I was, an athlete at about 180 pounds, which for me is pretty lean. I used it when I weighed 250 pounds. I use it today. I'll use it tonight. It works very, very effectively. My machine is coming up on 16, 17 years I've been using it, and I don't go anywhere without it. I take it when I travel. It goes everywhere with me because I need it to sleep. What happens in some people, and you may be this person or you may know this person, think about a boy who's needed braces and he's had to have teeth extracted. What happens sometimes is if the lower jaw is too small, and that's a genetic trait, there's nothing anybody can do about it, you don't have enough room in the jaw for the amount of teeth, so they have to extract teeth and put braces on you. The other thing that goes along with that is you have a normal amount of soft tissue in your soft palate and your throat. And the only problem is your mouth is too small to handle. It's trying to like put 3 pounds of sugar in a 2-pound bag. So that can contribute to that problem. Now, I've had clients that have had surgery to remove some of that soft tissue, and I will tell you their results were poor, and they still need the CPAP machine. So when I spoke to my doctor and I asked him about the surgery, he said he did not want to do it. The type of doctor you would see for sleep apnea, just so you know, you could see your general practitioner at first. He's probably going to recommend you to a pulmonologist. And there's a lot of sleep study centers in the area. There's one right across the street from Jersey Shore Medical Center. So if you're from New Jersey and you're looking for that location, you can give me a call and I can refer you there. They're wonderful people. I went for my last sleep study probably about 2 years ago. And the machine that I use has the right pressure. The pressures are adjustable. And I did very, very well in my tests. So right now I don't have any problems with sleep apnea. But there are times when I'll fall asleep on the couch and I'll wake up like it from a dream, like I'm being suffocated. So I know that I still need the machine, because if I fall asleep on the couch without it, sometimes I do have trouble breathing. So these are important things to know. Again, if there's anybody on the call who has any questions about anything we've talked about, I know I probably had 2 hours of material. I took about a half hour to get through, just to give you an overview and let you know how important sleep is to balancing out your hormones. So if you're not losing weight, if you're not losing inches, you know, and you're starting to do all the right things, but you're not sleeping properly, it could be like, you know, getting the car all ready, but forgetting to put the gas in it. It's not going to go anywhere. You need sleep. There's a, you know, our program is like a jigsaw puzzle. And if you're missing one piece of the puzzle, it doesn't work. So you need to get your proper sleep. You need to work on stress management. You need to make sure your food is proper. You got to make sure you're doing the right exercise. You know, there's so many components to this program, but they just should fall into place. You develop a lifestyle that helps you to achieve these things. Okay, enough on that. Let's just finish up with nutrition. We got one more week in the eat less, exercise less model. So that's important for you to know. We're still on the same 2 workouts a week, 7 days a week of walking, your protein shake for breakfast, protein shake for lunch, your full meal with a starch in the evening for dinner. Again, if you're still losing weight and your HEC's in check, don't do anything, keep doing what you're doing. Again, if you get to the point where things are not going well, your HEC is not in check, start to add those 10 grams of fat into your meals. That could be avocado, that could be nut butter, you know, it could be eating like steak instead of fish because it's higher in fat. Okay, if your HEC is not in check, still after that, subtract the fat and start putting in the 3 to 6 bites of carbohydrate, your half a cup of brown rice, your half a sweet potato. If you're a bigger guy and that's still not working, you can go to a full potato or a cup of rice. I have no problem with that. Okay, if your HEC is still not in check, add back the fat. And if your HEC is still not in check after that, you can start to add 1 or 2 protein snacks per day. If your HEC is in check, but you're not losing weight, let's start pulling things out of the diet. Let's start removing, well, there shouldn't be any carbohydrate right now in your breakfast or your lunch. But look to see the amount of carbohydrate you're eating at dinner and make sure it's not like a carbohydrate like you're eating Italian bread or pasta or you know, any kind of grain or that type of starch. You want to stick with sweet potato, brown rice, oatmeal, that kind of thing. Make sure you're walking an hour a day every day. Again, we're not into it yet, but when we start to change into an eat more, exercise more model, and that's not working, then you might have to go back to an eat less, exercise less model. We'll talk more about metabolic workouts and burst training next week, because next week we will move into the eat more, exercise model. So look for those notes before next week's meeting. Okay, let me open up my screen so I can look for questions, because when I'm in this, I can't see if you guys are asking me any questions. Okay. Okay, I don't see any questions in my chat box. I know I went over a lot of this very, very quickly. I talked a lot about estrogen, talked very little about progesterone, I talked a little bit about testosterone, I talked about insulin, I talked about cortisol, I talked about human growth hormone, I talked about ghrelin, I talked about leptin. There's a lot of hormones, melatonin, cortisol, all these things all come into play. And it's very, very important that we keep everything balanced. So if there's no questions tonight, questions come up tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, 2 weeks from now, feel free to ask us. Susan is very, very good when it comes to female fat loss and balancing out the progesterone and estrogen questions. So if questions do come up about that, I'm probably going to defer to her anyway. She's written protocols on things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, female fat loss, perimenopausal programs, menopausal programs, and so forth. So she's really the expert when it comes to this. She spent a lot of time and energy. And if you go on to your RX Studio, there should be her female fat loss video on there, and she goes a lot into hormonal balancing. So The information is all there. I don't see any questions. It's almost 7:45, 8:45 rather, so I usually try to keep these to less than an hour, but like I said, if there's any questions or concerns, feel free to contact us. Again, we're sticking with the eat less, exercise less model. Next Wednesday, we'll start the eat more, exercise more. You will get your guide probably by Monday to help you ramp up. I want everybody to be able to go out shopping, to get whatever foods they need, and we'll really start to get into the metabolic training. And that's what we'll be using a lot of the videos that are already in place on the RX Studio. So we're going to move away from the 4 exercises, 4 sets, 10 reps to fatigue, and we'll start moving into metabolic training. We'll talk a lot more about metabolic training next week. Again, you'll see examples of it in the literature you'll be sent. You'll see it in the videos you'll be sent. So we've got a lot of information coming. Okay? I got no questions, so I'm going to cut out for the night, guys. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to everyone real soon. Have a good night. Bye-bye.